Welcome back. Welcome back. It is our top story this morning. The New York Times releasing a bombshell Benghazi report. It is our top story this morning. It claims that there's no link between the attack and al-Qaeda, but doesn't the report contradict most of our intelligence on that raid itself?
Well, that's for sure. Let's ask Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, who was recently in the region. And, Colonel, thank you for joining us. What is your initial reaction to this, well, bombshell?
Well, it's insane. I mean, let me be clear for your audience to understand the complete insane nature of what's being said here. When you go into Kmart and you buy something, a lot of the things in that store is branded Sears because Sears is the parent organization. Ansar al-Shariah is like Kmart to Sears. Ansar al-Shariah is al-Qaeda. And so what the article is putting forward here is totally insane. Ansar al-Shariah is rebranded al-Qaeda. So you cannot get past that to begin with by any, if you're a serious expert studying this.
What about the video portion of this, Tony?
Well, there's no basis for that, Clayton. I mean, again, everybody's looked at this, and let me tell you, I've been in the region. I just was in Egypt last week. You don't have that level of access to social media necessary to spawn that level of response for a quote-unquote protest. And plus, this attack started at night. You don't have protests at night. I witnessed a Muslim Brotherhood protest starting in Cairo. It started first thing in the morning during daylight hours. And speaking of that, let me be clear on this too. I spent several hours with the chief of Egyptian intelligence, Mohammed Farid al-Tohami, and I asked him directly the question, was al-Qaeda involved in the attack on the Benghazi embassy? Consulate, and he said absolutely. And he went through, and I can't go through all the details, but again, the chief of Egyptian intelligence said flat out that this was an al-Qaeda attack. So who are you going to believe, the chief of Egyptian intelligence or the New York Times? Well, Colonel, it just doesn't make sense.
One of the points that this New York Times piece makes is that you can't trust anybody in that region. One day they're loyal, one day they're not loyal. And they bring up a person named, they call him a central figure in the attack, a malcontent, eccentric leader, militia leader named Ahmed Abu Khattala. What can you tell us about this guy and the possibility that he was in charge or a ringleader in some way, shape, or form?
He was, I'm sure, a malcontent. I'm sure he was involved. But the guys at the FBI are after Juliet are actually al-Qaeda guys. There's two guys in particular that are directly linked. They are al-Qaeda who essentially planned and led the event. Let's remember the key points here. You had 200 trucks mobilized to go do the attack. You had mortars. And this is one thing that they completely gloss over so far in this article. I'm not sure what will come in the book. The mortar attack done to the annex was precise. They put 4 rounds onto a target that the best U.S. Marine Corps mortarmen would love to have. So this was not spontaneous. And this guy was but one of the rabble who was part of the organization, but it was clearly al-Qaeda led and executed.
I guess that's your headline in reaction to this New York Times piece. When they say random militia, you say this random militia, not random at all. They were al-Qaeda.
Right. Right. Again, Ansar al-Shariah is simply rebranded al-Qaeda. And let's be very clear on this. The whole region now is controlled by radicals. You've got Tripoli controlled flat out by al-Qaeda pretty much, again, according to Egyptian intelligence. This region we're talking about, Ansar al-Shariah, is essentially al-Qaeda controlled, funded by outside organizations. The south of Libya is complete chaos. So when you look at the big picture here, it's very clear if you trace back the threads, and oh, by the way, you guys know this, Catherine Herridge reported on a classified cable, which is alluded to in this piece, by the way, that there was reporting saying that the embassy's concerned about al-Qaeda, but the piece then basically says, there was nothing to worry about, really, because it was just all chaos. And let's be very clear, chaos was organized in such a way to cause maximum mayhem to our embassy that day. So I don't buy this whole, it just happened one day because of the circumstance.
Colonel, could you buy this, that these al-Qaeda members, albeit they say that they were a random militia, were planning something, and then when they saw the video, they said, let's go do it now?
Two problems with that. First, seeing the video is a problem. This is not, somewhere in the middle of Missouri where you can just go tune in to YouTube. It's tough to get these things. Secondly, how do you get it out there? Again, if you're looking at his own timeline, it didn't really have time to go viral in a third world country. So, and then third, I think most compelling is that the organization that was needed to launch a concerted attack, this was an organized effort with people coming in, wave after wave, with mortars. So again, this was not a rabble.
They're referred to as looters and arsonists, according according to this New York Times piece.
And there was a track record here too, Tony, right, with the British consulate attack, and we had the warning signs ahead of time.
Right. The British consulate actually shut down because they had 2 attacks earlier in the year. One of the little-known things is that the British left all their weapons with us at the annex. That when the annex got trashed, all the British weapons got taken as well. With that said, again, these so-called rabble actually knew where to go to attack the annex, where to go to get the weapons. So you don't do that if you're simply a crowd looking for something to do late at night.
Let's say the video never existed. They were going to attack.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, the 9/11 anniversary is the key to remember here. Yeah. Everybody fails to recognize, in this whole explaining it away, well, the video just, 9/11 was the key. Yeah. Right. This was meant to send us a message. That's why they did it on 9/11. That's why they did it the way they did with the precision they did. This was not something that you organize on the back of a tissue box and say, okay, let's go do this.
Yeah. Colonel, thank you.
Colonel, great stuff this morning. We really appreciate your analysis. You're just back from that region and speaking to some high-level intelligence officials there. Thanks so much, Colonel. We appreciate it.
Who would have thought you wake up on a Sunday and have all this breaking? All right, coming